little boy. Hey, man, I don't really like you niggas like that, man, cause we ain't free, man. I been chasing nigga, drinking nigga, facing nigga, man. No, I ain't. Team sped my shit back, brr, gang.
Picture this. You're cruising through Memphis, minding your own business in your red car, when suddenly bullets start flying through your windows. You get hit, paralyzed for life, all because some goofy thought you were the ops. That's exactly what happened to an innocent civilian who crossed paths with Lil Hank, Pooh Shiesty's most loyal crash dummy. This YN really shot up the wrong car, left a man paralyzed, then crashed his whip trying to flee like some type of amateur hour nonsense. But here's the crazy part. Even locked up doing 18 years, this dude's still on that timing, claiming the only reason his enemy's breathing is cause he behind bars. No cap, by the end of this video, you gonna understand why Pooh Shiesty shouts out Lil Hank in damn near every track he drops, and why this shorty might be the most dangerous crash dummy in all of Memphis. So gang, make sure you stay till the end cause we bout to break down the whole story of how loyalty turned into a life sentence. Let me break it down for you real quick. Lil Hank ain't just some random street dude. This player been putting in work for Chopper Gang since day one. And when I say work, I mean the type of work that got him sitting in a cell for the next 18 years. But before we get into all that, y'all gotta understand how deep this loyalty runs. See, Hank been riding with Pooh Shiesty since they was young, running around South Memphis. We talking about Cane Creek apartments, where survival meant you either got down or got. These shorties wasn't playing no games, they was on that real gangsta timing from Jump Street. The numbers don't lie either. Pooh Shiesty went from local Memphis rapper to pulling 18 million views off one beef, and Hank was right there in the trenches making sure his homies stayed protected. According to the streets and multiple sources, Hank earned his stripes early. While other YNs was worried about school and girls, this dude was already establishing himself as the type of crash dummy that would front his move without thinking twice. That's the type of loyalty that built Chopper Gang from the ground up. Now before we dive deeper into Hank's story, y'all need to understand Memphis street culture because this ain't like other cities. Memphis got this unique blend of southern hospitality and straight-up savagery that creates some of the most loyal but dangerous crews in the country. We talking about a city where your life expectancy can drop by 20 years just based on what neighborhood you from. The South Memphis area where Chopper Gang originated is particularly wild. You got families sleeping on floors to avoid stray bullets, and young YNs carrying military-grade weapons like they accessories. This environment breeds a specific type of mentality. You either protect your own at all costs or you become a victim. There ain't no middle ground. Hank grew up in this environment where showing weakness could get you eliminated and proving loyalty could elevate your status. The gang structure in Memphis is different too. You got national sets like Crips and Bloods, but then you got these hybrid crews and smaller cliques that operate with their own rules. Chopper Gang fell into that category. They wasn't bound by traditional gang politics, which made them more unpredictable and dangerous. Now let me tell you how Chopper Gang really came together, cause this ain't no overnight success story. Pooh Shiesty, Big 30, Lil Hank, and a few other solid YNs from different parts of Memphis decided to click up and get this money by any means necessary. We talking about the mid-2000s when Memphis was still that raw, unfiltered type of environment where you had to prove yourself daily. Pooh Shiesty naturally became the CEO of this operation. Homie had the vision, the charisma, and most importantly, the street credibility to lead. His father was already a known figure in Memphis streets, running Mob Ties records and dealing with his own legal troubles. That legacy gave Pooh instant respect, but it also painted a target on his back. But every CEO needs enforcers, and that's where Lil Hank came in clutch. While Pooh was handling the business side and building his rap career, Hank was in the field making sure nobody tried to test Chopper Gang's reputation. The structure was simple but effective. Pooh Shiesty at the top calling shots, and everybody else, including Hank, Big 30, and the rest of the crew, following orders and handling whatever needed to be handled. What made Hank special was his willingness to take on the most dangerous assignments. While other members might hesitate or try to find safer alternatives, Hank was always ready to be the first one through the door. This earned him the unofficial title of Pooh's main shooter, and with that title came both respect and responsibility. By 2018 to 2019, when Pooh Shiesty started getting recognition in the music industry, Hank was still in the streets making sure his homie could focus on his craft without worrying about street politics. That division of labor worked perfectly. Pooh could be the face of the operation while Hank handled the dirty work behind the scenes. The early days of Chopper Gang was all about establishing territory and building reputation. Memphis is a small city where everybody knows everybody, so word travels fast about who's really about that action and who's just talking talking. Hank made sure Chopper Gang fell into the first category. According to street sources, Hank was involved in multiple incidents that helped establish Chopper Gang's credibility. We talking about robberies, shootings, and territorial disputes that most people never heard about because they didn't make the news. But in the streets, these incidents became legend, and Hank's name started carrying weight. One particular incident that the streets still talk about involved a rival crew trying to set up shop in Chopper Gang territory. Instead of just talking about it or making threats, Hank allegedly took direct action that sent a clear message. This was Chopper Gang's block, and anybody trying to change that would face consequences. Hank's role became even more crucial during this period. While Pooh was in studios in Atlanta and Los Angeles, Hank was back in Memphis, making sure nobody tried to take advantage of his absence. The streets respect success, but they also test it, and Hank was the insurance policy that kept Chopper Gang's reputation intact. When Pooh Shiesty started getting mainstream recognition, dropping songs with Lil Durk and other major artists, Hank was still putting in work on the ground level. This created an interesting dynamic. Pooh was becoming a celebrity while his main enforcer remained in the shadows, handling business that couldn't be discussed in interviews or social media posts. The loyalty went both ways, though. Even as Pooh's career exploded, he never forgot who was holding it down in Memphis. That's why you hear Hank's name in so many songs. It wasn't just shout-outs, it was acknowledgement of the work being put in behind the scenes. But success also brought increased scrutiny from law enforcement. As Chopper Gang's profile rose, so did the attention from Memphis police and federal agencies. This created additional pressure on Hank, who was already operating in a high-risk environment. Now here's where things get spicy, fam. Memphis got this north versus south divide that's been brewing for years, and Chopper Gang, being from the south, automatically had beef with certain crews from up north. The main opposition, EBG, Everybody Gangsta, and these YNs was not playing around. When Pooh Shiesty dropped that Back in Blood verse with Lil Durk, he wasn't just rapping. Homie was talking about a specific lick where Chopper Gang ran up in EBG territory and took some serious hardware. Yeah, you know who took that from you? Come get it back in blood. That wasn't no metaphor. That was a direct message to the ops. The specific incident Pooh referenced involved Chopper Gang members led by Hank running up in an EBG safe house and taking multiple weapons. This wasn't just a robbery. It was a power move designed to embarrass EBG and show that Chopper Gang could strike anywhere, anytime. The psychological impact was just as important as the physical loss. The beef escalated when EBG dropped their Back in Blood remix, basically declaring war on Chopper Gang. They had CGK, Chopper Gang Killer, on their shirts and everything. But Hank, this dude was ready to respond with more than just music. According to multiple sources from Memphis, Hank was pushing for immediate retaliation, wanting to show EBG that Chopper Gang wasn't just rappers, they was really with the business. But EBG wasn't the only crew that had problems with Chopper Gang. Memphis street politics is complicated, with multiple crews, sets, and individual beefs creating a web of conflicts that can explode at any moment. Hank found himself in the middle of several of these situations, always ready to defend Chopper Gang's honor. Hank's reputation as Chopper Gang's crash dummy meant that every beef Pooh got into became his responsibility to handle. This created a situation where Hank was constantly on high alert, ready to respond to threats that might not even be real. The pressure of being the main shooter for a crew that was making enemies faster than they could count was taking its toll. The street politics also involved smaller crews and individual beefs that didn't make it into the music, but were just as dangerous. Memphis has a culture where disrespect demands immediate response, and Hank was the person responsible for delivering that response on behalf of Chopper Gang. Now we get to the part that got Hank locked up, and this is where loyalty turned into a life sentence. It was 2020, and tensions in Memphis was at an all-time high. Chopper Gang was beefing with multiple crews, and everybody was on high alert. The Back in Blood song had blown up nationally, bringing even more attention to the Memphis street scene and increasing the stakes for everybody involved. Hank was riding through the city, probably handling some business for the gang, when he spotted a red Infiniti. Now you gotta understand the mindset. When you're in active beef with multiple crews, every unfamiliar car could be a threat. Every person you don't recognize could be an enemy. This constant state of paranoia is what the streets do to your mental health. Here's where everything went wrong, gang. Hank thought he recognized that whip. In his mind, this was the ops trying to move through Chopper Gang territory. The car matched the description of vehicles that EBG members had been seen in, and in that split second, Hank made a decision that would change multiple lives forever. Without hesitation, this goofy started letting off shots, thinking he was protecting his crew and sending a message to the enemies. In his mind, this was just another day of putting in work for Chopper Gang. He probably thought he was about to eliminate a threat and earn more respect from his crew. But plot twist, it wasn't the ops at all. It was just some regular civilian, probably coming home from work or running errands, who had the misfortune of driving a car that looked similar to what the opposition was pushing. The innocent man got hit multiple times and ended up paralyzed from the waist down. His whole life changed in seconds because of a case of mistaken identity. The victim was just a working man trying to provide for his family. He had no connection to any gangs, no involvement in street politics, and no idea that driving a red car through that particular neighborhood at that particular time would cost him the use of his legs. In an instant, he went from being an independent person to someone who would need assistance for the rest of his life. Now here's the part that really shows you how this crash dummy mentality works. Instead of stopping to check if he hit the right target, Hank tried to flee the scene, but karma got him quick. As he was speeding away, probably panicking about what just happened, he lost control of his vehicle and crashed into a pole. The crash was violent enough to disable his car and leave him trapped at the scene. Witnesses called the police, and when they arrived, they found Hank still in his damaged vehicle, unable to escape. The evidence was overwhelming. Shell casings, witness testimony, and Hank's presence at the scene made it an open and shut case. That crash is what sealed his fate. Police found him at the scene, connected him to the shooting, and that was it. Game over. An 18-year sentence for attempted murder, and an innocent man paralyzed for life. All because Hank was so ready to put in work for Chopper Gang that he didn't take 2 seconds to verify his target. The legal case against Hank was straightforward but devastating. The prosecution had physical evidence, witness testimony, and a clear motive based on the ongoing gang conflicts in Memphis. Hank's defense team tried to argue various angles, but the evidence was too strong to overcome. During the trial, details emerged about the extent of the victim's injuries. The man wasn't just paralyzed. He faced a lifetime of medical expenses, physical therapy, and psychological trauma. His family had to completely restructure their lives to accommodate his new reality. The human cost of Hank's split-second decision became clear to everyone in that courtroom. The judge, when handing down the 18-year sentence, specifically mentioned the senseless nature of the crime. This wasn't a case of self-defense or even a targeted attack on a rival gang member. This was an innocent civilian who became a victim of gang violence through pure bad luck. For Hank's family, the sentence was devastating. They lost a son, brother, and friend to a system that showed no mercy for gang-related violence. But they also had to grapple with the fact that Hank's actions had destroyed another family's life. The ripple effects of that one moment of violence spread far beyond just the immediate participants. Now you'd think getting locked up for 18 years would humble somebody, make them reflect on their choices, and maybe show some remorse. But not Lil Hank. This dude doubled down on his crash dummy status even from behind bars. According to sources and social media posts, even after getting sentenced, Hank was still on that same energy. Homie went on Instagram claiming that the only reason his enemies was still breathing was because he was locked up. Can you believe that? This YN really said, the ops should be grateful he's in prison because if he was free, they'd all be dead. That's some next level crash dummy mentality right there. The post showed no remorse for the innocent victim, no acknowledgement of the mistake that led to his incarceration. Instead, Hank seemed to view his imprisonment as a temporary setback rather than a consequence of his actions. This attitude demonstrated how deeply the crash dummy mentality had taken root in his thinking. That loyalty goes both ways too. Even though Hank's mistake cost an innocent man his ability to walk and landed him in prison for nearly 2 decades, Pooh Shiesty still shows love and keeps his name alive in the music. That's the type of bond that Chopper Gang was built on, ride or die no matter what the consequences. The continued shout-outs in Pooh's music serve multiple purposes. They keep Hank's name relevant in the streets, they show other Chopper Gang members that loyalty is rewarded even in bad situations, and they maintain the narrative that Hank was a soldier who sacrificed himself for the crew. Law enforcement used Hank's case as an example of why gang activity needed to be addressed more aggressively. The fact that an innocent civilian was paralyzed because of gang beef gave police and prosecutors additional ammunition in their efforts to crack down on street crews. For other young people in Memphis, Hank's story served as both a warning and a twisted form of inspiration. Some saw the 18-year sentence and decided that gang life wasn't worth the risk. Others saw Hank's continued loyalty to Chopper Gang and viewed him as a role model for how to handle adversity. But let's keep it 100, fam. This whole situation shows the dark side of that crash dummy loyalty. Hank was so eager to prove himself and protect his crew that he made a decision that destroyed multiple lives. The civilian who got shot is paralyzed for life, dealing with medical bills, physical therapy, and a completely changed existence. His family probably struggling with the emotional and financial burden of caring for someone with a permanent disability. The victim's story is one that rarely gets told in these situations. He went from being an independent person with his own goals and dreams to someone who needs assistance with basic daily activities. The psychological impact of suddenly becoming paralyzed is something that affects not just the victim but everyone who cares about him. And for what? A case of mistaken identity that could have been avoided if Hank had taken 5 seconds to verify his target. Instead of being Pooh Shiesty's right-hand man, helping build the Chopper Gang empire, he's sitting in a cell for the next 18 years, missing out on his prime years and watching his homies succeed from behind bars. The streets respect loyalty, no doubt about it. But there's a difference between being loyal and being reckless. Hank crossed that line, and now everybody involved is paying the price. The victim, his family, Hank himself, and even Chopper Gang, because they lost their main enforcer to a preventable mistake. This is the reality of that crash dummy lifestyle that gets glorified in the music. Yeah, it sounds cool in the songs, and it builds street credibility, but when it goes wrong, the consequences are permanent. Hank went from being Pooh Shiesty's most trusted soldier to being a cautionary tale about what happens when loyalty turns into recklessness. The culture that creates crash dummies is built on the idea that proving your loyalty through violence is the highest form of respect. But this mindset ignores the long-term consequences of those violent acts. It prioritizes short-term reputation over long-term freedom and success. When you look at the whole picture, Lil Hank's story is both a testament to loyalty and a warning about the cost of that loyalty. This YN was willing to risk everything for Chopper Gang. And in the end, that's exactly what he did. He risked everything and lost. Pooh Shiesty went on to sign major deals with Gucci Mane and Atlantic Records, selling 60,000 first week and becoming one of the biggest names in rap. Meanwhile, his most loyal soldier is serving 18 years for a mistake that could have been avoided. The irony is real. While Pooh was building an empire, the person who helped protect that empire destroyed his own life trying to defend it. At the end of the day, Hank's story shows us that being a crash dummy ain't sustainable. You might get respect in the streets, you might get your name in songs, but when it all goes wrong, you're the one sitting in that cell while everybody else moves on with their lives. The streets will always remember Lil Hank as Pooh Shiesty's most loyal crash dummy, the YN who was willing to throw his life away for the gang. But that innocent man in the wheelchair will remember him as the person who changed his life forever over a case of mistaken identity. That's the real cost of this lifestyle, gang. The music makes it sound glamorous, but the reality is 18-year sentences and paralyzed civilians. Hank learned that lesson the hard way, and now he's got plenty of time to think about whether that loyalty was worth it. What y'all think about this whole situation? Was Hank's loyalty admirable or just reckless? Drop your thoughts in the comments and make sure you subscribe for more deep dives into the stories behind the music. Until next time, stay safe out there, fam.